Everyone, welcome back to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. I am delighted to be having a second chat with comics creator, author David Hazan. David, thank you for jumping in, joining, and talking with me. Thanks for coming back to talk with me a second time.
Thanks for having me again.
Anytime, anytime. You can come every week. That would be absolutely fine. Yeah.
I think
So
people would get overloaded too much Australian for their lives, I
Oh,
think.
I don't know. I don't know. I love it. I love the charming accent. It totally works. And Nottingham, of course, we'll mention that here at the outset, but you have another series that is on the way. And so certainly want to give some love and attention there. But those are a couple of the things that people will know you for with Mad Cave, one of my favorite publishers. They don't pay me to say that. I just say it because it's true. Um, so
I, I,
curious.
I agree, but they do pay me to say
Yes,
that. So
yes, absolutely. I was going to say, yeah, yeah. It makes them a little more of the favorite if they're paying you, I'm sure. Yes, yeah, yeah. So curious about the narrative world of Nottingham. I know that it started and been expanded. What's it been like to see that sort of take off and grow?
it's kind of crazy to think that really my first book, you know, is now 15 issues plus, multiple spin-offs. And there's more stuff, more Nottingham stuff coming, not from the main series, but there's more stuff coming. I don't think I'm breaking any news by saying that. Mark has already said that in interviews. As soon as Mark says it, I'm allowed to say it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I've taken that approach because he seems to be doing that.
Yeah, yeah. Good,
Mark,
good
if
to
you're
follow the
watching, I
leader.
love you. Thank you for letting me say these things.
Yeah.
But
Well, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, it's like bringing the story, the main story to a close. Has been, yeah, it's been tough. Uh, Definitely one of the biggest storytelling challenges I've had in the last couple of years. Um, but I hope people really like it because that last script, when I turned that in, for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I nailed it. So I hope I did.
Nice,
Sticking the
nice.
landing is always hard.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Beginnings are hard. The ending, the landing, all the places to go in between. Yeah. Does it get any easier as the process unfolds? That's the question.
No, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
Like, I think parts of it get easier and parts of it get harder, and that like I know these characters like the back of my hand, and I know the ways I can twist them in order to get people excited. But also, like, you never want to retread,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you want to make sure, especially when you're already retreading in the sense that you've got an established uh, cast of characters and from an established legend.
Yeah.
You never want to retread with that stuff because people almost instinctively bounce off it. So, and I mean, part of the premise of Nottingham was to not retread, but to sort of redefine and um, recon recontextualize. So, yeah, it parts of it get easier as you go on, parts of it get harder, and you just end up with different kinds of challenges, which is, what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, about this time last year, I joined the Man Cave street team, which lasted for, I think, a month or something like that. They decided not to do it anymore. But one of the things that they mentioned was that one of the titles people first associate with Mad Cave is Nottingham. And so kudos to you for bringing the creativity. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been pretty gratifying, and I think when Mad Cave saw the response, they just threw themselves behind us full force and t basically told us to go nuts.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
Yeah.
So hopefully people get, get out of this the ambition that we put into it because we did some wild stuff. Last volume, we're doing some wild stuff this volume. Um, and I guess to contextualize the premise of what this volume is about, we'll start from the beginning. So volume one, uh, the Sheriff of Nottingham is the protagonist in a medieval police procedural, and he's hunting a serial killer who's murdering the area's tax collectors.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
this sort of unfolds towards an ending that reveals Robin's identity and sort of reveals Marion as this, spoiler alert, as this conniving character,
mhm,
um,
mhm,
and which you should get from issue one. But by the end of volume one, everybody's in the seats that you'd kind of expect them to be in, except we're following the sheriff, and he's sort of much more sympathetic than you might remember from other tellings of the Robin Hood legend. Volume two, we break everything that we set up, and we send Robin and the sheriff off to go rescue Richard the Lionheart, and Marion gets to do what she wants at home. Um, which culminates in some fiery events that lead to Volume 3, where the sheriff returns home to find a city he barely recognizes, and Robin and Richard the Lionheart, with a full army at their backs, on his heels, about to lay siege to the city, and the sheriff kind of is compelled by some sort of honor or duty or you know something. He's sort of stuck in his cycle of trying to save this city that kind of doesn't care about him.
mhm.
Um, and so he throws himself in there just before basically the gates close and the city falls under siege. Um, and there's chaos going on inside the walls, chaos going on outside the walls. And it's just fantastically fun. We sort of in volume two, we made the scale really big, and the scale is still really big, but we're bringing our characters in real tight and real close together and watching these horrifically messy people trapped in a tight space together and interacting with each other in that way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've gone from this sort of spanning storyline, and now Kosher Mafia is the newest project that's on the horizon. So, anything that you'd like to mention about this crime series?
So Kosher Mafia follows Howard Berkowitz, the bookkeeper for the Jewish mob in Cleveland, Ohio in 1936. And he's basically seen the sort of rising tide of domestic Nazism in a bunch of different, very real organizations at the time, like the Silver Shirt Legion, the German American Bund, the Friends of New Germany, all of these kind of interrelated organizations. And he tries to spur his superiors into acting against these organizations, which he considers to be their role. Their role is to protect the community. They do horrific things, and it's almost their responsibility to give back as a result of all of these, terrible things that they do.
No.
That's his perspective. Um, but he's sort of kind of an ineffectual person in and of himself. And so they brush him off and send an enforcer to go and kill him as a result. And so he finds himself on the wrong end of this enforcer's gun. But things don't go the way you think.
Nice, nice. Yeah. Well, I love the threads of course, crime storytelling, the historical sensibility that you bring, and then also such interesting work with showing different perspectives as well, and kind of exploring maybe some areas that readers haven't seen before.
Absolutely. I think, I thrive as a writer when I get to write messy and complicated people doing messy and complicated things.
Yeah.
And so forging a new set of messy and complicated people to play with has been real fun. And also like being able to infuse a lot more of who I am and the people around me and into those things it's been hard. It's been probably about as tough as ending Nottingham in terms of just a challenge as a writer, but it's also been super validating.
Yeah, it sounds like going from Nottingham to this story has kind of allowed you to expand with some different tools to play with.
Absolutely. And I guess it's much more deeply personal than Nottingham in that, there's some stuff in there that, if you read deep enough, you'll see sort of the connective tissue
Hmm.
um, of all of this. But I think, yeah, it felt much more deeply personal, and there are stories even in the first issue. There's sort of Howard, the protagonist, tells the story of him and his two brothers um, emigrating from what is now, you know, Russia, Ukraine, Poland area um, to America, and how and the impact that sort of had the different impact that sort of had on the three of them.
Hmm.
And that is drawn almost directly from my great grandfather's story of migrating out of that area um, and to Wales actually, and then he came to Australia, and but a lot of yeah, that is almost directly the story of my great grandfather and his two brothers, and I don't know, it was a weirdly it, it- I don't get that direct on the page
Hmm.
usually,
Hmm.
because usually we're sort of steeped in layers of genre and metaphor, and so it was an interesting and difficult challenge to get that right.
Yeah. Any words about the creative team? Because I know that, of course,
Oh,
comics are
absolutely,
collaborative. Hmm.
absolutely. Um, uh, Sammy is just so wonderful to work with. He's just somebody who nails it and then adds something.
Hmm.
So, he's sitting there researching what specific streets in Cleveland looked like at the time, um, and he took a huge amount of that load away from me because he just gets it,
Yeah.
and and then just the art itself, like Sammy, Ellie, Simon, but specifically Sammy, uh, like. I look at Sammy's work and I'm like, Big Two, he's right here.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like the way he draws this enforcer Ephraim Gold, uh, I'm that's a couple lines away from James Bond. Like that's the just sort of the level of you know masterful craftsmanship that's going on
Hmm.
whenever
Hmm.
Sammy takes a pen to page, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
oh,
And
sorry,
I
go ahead.
mean, back to Nottingham, I mean, working with Shane and Luca and Justin is always a treat. Just, I like immediately after we finish a volume, I miss working with them.
Hmm.
So I'm always checking in with Shane. I was like sending him an Instagram message going, "You doing okay, bud?
Yeah.
You want to work on something?" He's always like, "I'm touring and doing my own things. Leave me alone."
Well, when you get the collaboration you're looking for, it's hard to let those go. It's
Look,
nice to return.
I think it's it's great that especially that I got to meet Shane in New York in 2022. It was just so delightful. He's such a sweetheart. And he puts everything literally puts everything, he pours out the whole ink pot onto the page every time
Hmm.
we do stuff together, and I just couldn't be happier, honestly. Just having a great time.
Yeah. Yeah. When going to the Kosher Mafia, it sounds like a really nice amount of research from Sammy the artist, as well as I'm sure that frees you up to
Oh
pay attention
no,
to some of the other aspects as
don't worry.
well.
I did so many deep dives, but
Yeah.
on the visual side of things, Sammy really just nailed it, and I couldn't be happier. Like it just looks and feels like, like it came out of 1936. So that's the goal. And just I didn't have to really do anything more than what I would have done with Shane, which great.
Yeah.
Like just perfect. And I just like let it's always a excuse me, it's always a fine
Mhm.
balance. Um letting the artists do their thing and not putting too much of the burden on them.
Yeah.
Um and to have Sammy, who's so wildly experienced, and he just falls into the exact rhythm that like I tend to thrive in, but I have no notes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have one more official question. We can hit, of course, anything that we've missed. Any particular words that you'd like to say about what's next in your creating? It sounds like Kosher Mafia has the spotlight, and then of course, I always like to give folks spaces where they can learn more. So, information about the book, about you, Mad Cave, anything that you'd
Yeah.
like to mention.
So, Kosher Mafia issue one drops August 7th. Um, so you can find that it's in previews at Luna. So just ask your comic shop about it, and they'll be able to order it in for you. Uh, Beyond that, I've got an issue or a story in an issue of Hello Darkness from Boom Studios coming up.
Hmm.
Not
Hmm.
sure when that will drop yet, but if you want to find out, I am at David T. Hazan on Twitter and on Instagram, and at www.davidhazan.com. Um, and I guess also Nottingham Volume 3 is in stores now. Uh, at the time of this recording, next week, issue 13 of 15 drops. And then we get, you know, two more issues before the big one. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Big
hope
moments.
big moments. So I hope everyone enjoys that because that has been, the creative journey of a lifetime, I suppose.
Yeah.
That it's consumed the last 5 years of my life, really, since 2019. So we're now almost at 5 years since I first sort of veritably put pen to paper on this. So
Yeah.
um, I hope
Yeah.
everyone enjoys it, and yeah, if you love it, tweet about it. That's like, you know,
Hmm.
we love to hear the good things. The bad things we could do without, but we love to hear when people love things.
That's right. That's right. And I was going to mention for folks out there that love the authenticity of stories and some of the insights. I believe you also have a background in the legal
No,
system.
I'm a lawyer by training. I've maybe worked on one criminal case in my life, so um
But you
I
you
don't know.
have the insight, you have the perspective.
I have some perspective, but
Yeah.
Um, yeah, one day I'd love to do a legal drama in comics. It's been done so rarely. Like,
Hmm.
apart from, when people do it in Daredevil or She-Hulk, which I love,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
it's sort of been done quite sparingly. I'd love to do one, so
Yeah, that
I
would be
can't wait.
amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you for talking with me when I know you're a bit under the weather. And
Thank you.
anything that we've missed that you want to make sure to mention before we close out?
And I think I got it all.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And as I mentioned at the beginning of our episode, glad to talk with you anytime. Looking forward to the new series and many, many more to come.
Thank you.